Hi, my name is Cherie and welcome to my journey. Now you know I have a 19-year-old pittie and she's telling me that it's almost time for her to go, and I had definitely uh, some issues about that. First of all, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. I'm not ready. And so she ain't gonna go until I'm ready. She kind of told me that. And I'm like, thank you. Then it also had me, doing my research, about is it better to put an animal down or, or let them, go naturally. Uh, my previous dog went naturally. Bear, yeah, he went naturally. Um, hey, you. Uh, he went naturally, but it was expedited by some type of attack. But anyway, um, took me to thinking about, my parents' death, right? My dad, he had a stroke, and they kept him on life support for 4 years. My mom, she had acute cancer, and they denied her bone marrow transference, so she died pretty quick. Although she did have some blood transfusions while they were trying to find out why she was losing blood. Um, yeah. Now I think now they have tests that they can kind of indicate you know cancer, right? They do have a test, because I know when I was given blood, you know, they rejected me when I was going through my cancer bout, right? And so another thing, you know, that I was contemplating was, you know, uh, you know, my my thought is, if I'm on my deathbed, I really don't want to be resuscitated. I guess that was not relayed, to my ex-husband, because my pregnancy, they had to resuscitate me 3 times, you know. But I tried to think, did we ever had that conversation? And no, we never had that conversation. So, yeah. But personally, you know, if I'm on the other side, don't bring me back. I'm a do not resuscitate believer. Yeah, this side was never that great, never. So yeah, um, I'm anxious, and waiting to go back, to source. Um, Whatever fun I was gonna have here, I've already had it. That's it. Now, the last 2 decades have been a process, right? But I did want to stay here long enough to know that my daughter was fine. She's okay, and I'm glad that I did not, leave after bringing her here to this prison planet. But she wanted to come, I'll be honest. She spoke to me in spirit, one of the things, I had to apologize for is like I told her, I said, look, I apologize for having you so late in life, but she wanted to come. And so I hope she enjoys most of it. I tried to make her childhood as pleasant as I can afford, and try to maintain our relationship. But even myself, like I said, when my time comes, I've been waiting for it for 2 decades. So it just seems like when I heard that it might be when I'm 99, I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm gonna be 90. I'm gonna be here until I'm 90. Like they're gonna torture me down here. They're gonna torment me. They're gonna starve me. They're gonna freeze me. They're gonna burn me out. They're gonna resuscitate me. I don't know how many times. No. I mean, they already put me out to pasture, and there's no jobs available. And even though 20 years ago, when I was in the process of planning out my retirement, $2,500 a month was enough to live off of. Now it's not. Now it isn't. You need anywhere from 4,000 to 8,000 to be comfortable. Otherwise, you're starving. You're poor. You're living in a crime-infested area. You're deciding, do you have medication or food? Retirement is not the same when they put you out to pasture. When they put you out to pasture, retirement is just waiting for the slaughter, basically. Just waiting for the slaughter. And I'm like, well, damn, why do they make people wait for so long, to go to the slaughter? They should just open up suicide centers. Or, we're going to have to manifest, some type of, switch in our brain that turns off and, allows us to escape this realm, because, they act like, they're either truly getting off on our suffering for real, or feeding off of it. It's like one or the other. They're either feeding off of it or they're getting off on it. Jerk offs. Anyway, that's my last transmission for today. Right? Contemplating life and death, and do not resuscitate, and euthanize or not to euthanize. And the medical field, they're definitely making that decision, because I've been doing my research to find out, and they were like, yes, any clinic, they can euthanize your dog, but, your dog has to show certain signs, yada, 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 before they would, before they feel like they could do it. Right. And I'm like, okay. And then I also asked them to show me, tell me about some of the symptoms, that they have, that dogs will have if they're uncomfortable, if they're in pain, or if they can't breathe. And, we talked about that. So I was very glad that I did that. The enlightenment was great, And of course, they tried to get me to make an appointment. They had people that would come to my house and give me a diagnosis. And I'm like, what do you tell me when I have a 19-year-old pittie? And no, I don't want to spend time, nursing her and, making her feel weak and bad and like a burden. I don't. I don't. I wouldn't want to feel that way myself. So of course that's why, I had to go through, the ponderings that I thought I would share with you. And I hope you enjoy them and you think about them too. Because most of us, you know, we are presently probably existing without even life insurance on our life. Feeling as if we are invulnerable. Now, it's one thing not to be able to afford life insurance, or because you thought you was going to be able to maintain your life insurance through your employer, Cobra, and this and that and the third. Never knew that you needed your own insurance, right? And thinking that okay, when you retire, that benefits would come through Medicare. Girl, you better think twice, right? That's all I got to say about that today. Maybe on Trash Talk Thursday I'll have more to talk about, because there's some systems out here that we definitely need to throw out with the trash. Bye.